Hello everyone, this is Brian Lagunas and welcome to part 5 in a multi-part series on building IG Outlook. In the last part, part 4, we discussed how to build custom region adapters for our XAMPP Outlook bar and our XAMPP ribbon. Let's go ahead and run the app as it exists now. This is the Silverlight version. As you can see, we have a single group being injected into our XAMPP Outlook bar area. We don't have any views being injected and we don't have any ribbons being injected. So in this video, what I want to accomplish is I want to start getting into view injection. That means we need a way to navigate to views. We need a way to implement MVVM because we're going to have view models with our views. So the first thing we need to get started with before we can do any of this is we need some infrastructure. So let's go ahead and start building out a little bit of our infrastructure. So let's go ahead and go to our infrastructure project. This is where a lot of the stuff we're going to be doing is going. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have a view model based class because I know that this application is going to have a view model, so we might as well just go ahead and knock it out now. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new class. I'm going to call this view model base. And of course the first thing this thing is going to need is an iViewModel interface. So let's go ahead and create it. Go ahead and generate the iViewModel class. It's actually not a class, it's a public interface. And on here, what we want is a property. And I'm just going to put a single property on here for now. I'm going to call it title. Okay, so that's good for now. So I'm going to go back over here, and we also need an iNotify property change interface. So let's go ahead and implement that baby and that guy. Now instead of typing all this out for you, I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in. So here's my title property from iViewModel and my onPropertyChanged for the iNotify property changed interface. And you can call this whatever you want. You can call it onPropertyChanged, notify property changed, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I actually kind of switch between the two. I guess I haven't decided which one I really want to use yet. So in this example, we'll call it onPropertyChanged. Now we have our view model base. We have our iViewModel. We're done here. Now the next thing I want to knock out is we're going to have menu options on the left-hand side, so we can like pick an inbox or draft. So we need some type of object to represent a navigation object or navigation item. So that's exactly what I'm going to create. First, because I love interfaces, I'm going to create a new item. This is going to be an interface, so we'll just go ahead and call it iNavigation item. And that's actually an interface. Now my iNavigation item, I'm thinking here, what I really need is a navigation path because we're going to be using the Prism navigation framework. So we're going to need a string, we'll call it navigation path. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the class, the concrete implementation of navigation item. Of course, this implements navigation item. Whoops. Go ahead and implement that interface. Once again, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this stuff in. Real simple. We have a couple of properties. Caption is expanded. Navigation path, that's part of the iNavigation item. We're going to have an observable collection of navigation items. This is because it's a hierarchy, so we're going to have a parent item, which can have children, which can have children. It's a tree structure. I'm not implementing iNotify property changed on this right now because I don't see a need for it currently, but if you're using code that may modify these values through data binding, then you might want to implement that. But for now, I'm just going to leave it alone, nice and simple, because I don't need it. So now the next thing I want to do is let's go ahead and create some navigation items for our Outlook group, for the mail group. You know, I want to create those items, the inbox, drafts, and items, things like that. So let's go to our mail module. And under menus, you see we have the mail group. I'm going to go ahead and right-click this. I'm going to add a new class. Call this mail group view model. It's going to derive from view model base that we created. Okay, let's go ahead and add some properties in the constructor. So we'll just go we'll add an observable collection of items. We're going to create a method for generating our objects. So we'll add a method in here, generate menu, and then create navigation path. Now, URI query is part of the navigation framework from Prism. This navigation parameters, this is actually something that we need to create. And because this is module level, right now I don't care about this anywhere else except within Mail. So for now, I will just create it here. If I need to move it, then I'll move it later. But for now, nice and easy. Navigation parameters. We'll add that class. And then I just need some constants in there. Okay. It looks like I have a misspelling there. There we go. Let me build just to make sure I didn't break anything. I did. Right here. Okay, great. So I've added some parameters for the folder we're going to be going into, like inbox, drafts, sent, deleted, right? Pretty self-explanatory. So the folder, let me go back to that class. This folder is actually going to be the key. So I might want to actually rename that to key, because you can see on the add, the first parameter of the add for the URI query is key. So to make this more explanatory, we'll rename that to folder key. That way nobody's confused on exactly what that is. Okay, so as you can see, we have a mail view here that is missing. So let's go ahead, go to views. We're going to go ahead and add a new item. It's going to be a user control. We'll call it mail view. We'll just stick it in there for now. We'll close it because I'm not really concerned about it at this moment. Okay, so now we have our view model for our Outlook bar group of mail. So let's see what's happening here. We have an items property. Okay. We have a constructor that calls generate menu. And all we do here is we create a new instance of items. We're creating a root object of type navigation item. The caption is personal folders. The navigation path is of type default view. Okay, well, we didn't create this yet, so let's go back up here to views, add. We're going to add a new item, user control, default view. We'll close this because I don't care about it right now. Okay, so navigation path type of default view.full name. The reason I'm using full name is when you're using Prism navigation, the navigation path needs to be a unique identifier. Okay, so the best way to guarantee that your navigation path is unique is just to use the fully qualified name of the type of view you're navigating to. So no matter what project you're in or what assembly you're in, it's always going to be unique and there won't be any collisions. So my navigation path is going to be the full name of default view for the root, which is personal folders. Next, I'm adding to the roots items collection. And this is where I'm adding the inbox, drafts, sent items, and deleted items. Now notice my navigation path is a little different. We're calling another method called create navigation path. We're passing in our navigation parameters, which I misspelled every single one of them. Okay, now this is going to be the folder we want to navigate to. That's what we're passing in. So if we go look at our create navigation path, we're passing in the folder we're navigating to. We're creating a new URI query. We're adding the folder, which is the parameter, as the key, right? So we have the key and then the value to the query, and then we're returning the mailView.fullName plus the query. Okay, just like we did up here for default view.fullName, we are specifying our fully qualified navigation path, and in Prism, to attach a query to that path, you just concatenate it, so plus query. And this is creating a very HTML-like query string that we'll be navigating to. Okay, so this view model is done. Awesome. So let's close this. We're done here. We're done with our navigation item, and we're done with our I navigation item. So now the next thing we want to do is we need to open up the mail group, the code behind. Because what we want to happen is whenever this instance is created, we want Unity to create an instance of our view model and assign our data context so we can do our data binding. So let's go ahead and go mail group view model view model. And we're just simply going to say data context equals view model. Pretty simple. Actually, really simple. Okay, so that's all we have here. Now, in the future, we'll probably refactor this to actually have a group base class that kind of encapsulates all this. We don't have to keep writing this, but for now, we'll just leave it like this. So now let's go ahead and open up our mail group, the XAML. We want to see our design. And as you can see, we already have our icons established for our mail. So now I'm going to go ahead and add a new XAM data tree. I'm going to bring over my references, but I'm not going to use this because I have one I'm going to paste in. Delete that. I'm going to go to my shell. I'm just doing this for references. Open up my shell, XAM data tree, drag it over, and I'm going to do that. But now my reference is there. Okay, so now I'm going to paste over a tree that I've already created. And as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. We have a XAM data tree, gave it a name. It's data binding to the items property on our view model. A layout to how we're going to lay this out. But you'll notice we have two things going on here. We have this data tree item selected attached property, and then we have this INF static markup. So in WPF, you have a markup for static properties. That doesn't exist in Silverlight. So let's go ahead and solve this problem first. Let's go to our infrastructure project. I'm actually going to create a folder for this. I'll call it markup. Then let's go ahead and add a new class in here. Add new class. We'll call it static extension. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and paste the code in here that makes this work. I'm going to make sure I have my proper using statements in here. Okay. So basically all this does, this code duplicates the functionality of the xStatic in WPF to a point. It's not as feature rich, but it does what I need it to do. So now that that's there, we need to add a using statement that points to the markup namespace. So I'm just going to put that in there. It says it can't find it, and that's because we didn't compile it. Let's build. Yep, we know that's not found. That's not a problem. So now, what is this attached property we're looking at? The XAM data tree item selected is a attached property that we're going to create right now. And what it does is it attaches a command to the items. Whenever an item is selected in this tree, it's going to execute the command that we're binding to. Okay, so that means we need to go back to our Prism folder in our infrastructure, and we're going to create a new class. Actually, we're going to create a couple of classes. So the first thing we're going to create I'm going to go ahead and add. Go ahead and add a new class. We'll call it the XAM data tree command behavior. And I'm going to, once again, simply cut and paste. Oh, we need to add a reference to the XAM data tree. Infragistics SL5 XAM data tree. Okay, so this command behavior derives from the Microsoft Patterns of Practices, the Prism command behavior base for our XAM tree. Basically, we're hooking into the active node changed event, and whenever that active node changes, we're going to take the new active tree node's data as an iNavigation item. Remember that navigation item we created? And then we're going to check if the parameter is not null. If it's not null, the command parameter is going to be the navigation's item navigation path. Otherwise it's empty, and then execute command. Well, that looks pretty simple. We can do that. Yeah, it's pretty simple. But we're not quite done yet. We need one more class. We need something to create the command property, the attached property itself. So we're going to go ahead and add another class. We're going to call this the XAM data tree item selected class. And once again, it's a lot of code to type out, so I'm just going to do a little magic copy and paste. Let's make sure that our using statements are correct. So basically what we're doing here is we're creating some attached properties, one for the command and one for the command parameter. And whenever we attach this command, we're getting or creating the command behavior here. So if you see get or create behavior, let's go to here, we're just getting the XAM data tree command behavior instance that we created, and we're either creating it and attaching it or getting the existing one. Okay, so let's close this out. But once again, we need to add a namespace that points to the attached property of the command. So let's come back up here and add the INF Prism namespace. Let's build here. Succeeded. Build my mail. Succeeded. Great. Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of infrastructure here. Okay, so that basically sets this up. But now we have another issue here. INF commands navigate command. Okay, so what this is what's considered a composite command. This is going to be a static command that's going to be called from every module, but it's only going to be executed or invoked in one area. What I mean by that is the execute handler for this command will only be in one location, but the composite command allows us to call this command from anywhere in the app. Okay, but our navigation logic will be located in one spot. So what we need to do is we need to come down to our infrastructure, okay, and we're going to create another class. This class is going to be called commands. So let's go ahead and right click, add new class, commands, and this is really simple. So simple I can actually type this one out. We're going to create a static composite command. I'm going to call this navigate command. Okay. I don't need all this stuff. Now, INF, do we have INF in our namespace? I'm guessing not because we didn't add it yet. So let's add another namespace. Let's do it right here. Done. All right, so let me try to line these up a little bit. All right, good enough. Okay, so now we have created our attached property for our command. We've created our static extension for Silverlight, and we've created our navigate command, our composite command. Oh man, that's a lot. Okay, but we're basically done with the mail group. So right now we're at a point to where we should see something in the UI if we were to run this application. So let's go ahead, run the app. Here we go. We have our items, our navigation items. As you can see, they're grayed out because we have an attached property of command, and there's no handlers for the command yet, so I can't click on anything because there's no can execute returning true on this. But as you can see, we have our folder navigation in place. So now we just got to go create a command that actually handles the execute and can execute. What that means is we need to go to our shell. And our shell is going to need a view model. Let's go ahead and go shell view model. Of course, this is going to derive from view model base. So now I'm not going to type everything in front of you. What I'm going to do is do my good old copy and paste. But right now we don't need this. I don't want to talk about the event aggregator just yet. But we do need a region manager. Our delegate command. And of course we're going to need our navigate. Okay, so now let's look at what's going on here. We have an instance of our region manager, and we've created a delegate command with a type string, so the payload is going to be a string, called navigate command. We are not using event aggregator at this moment, so we're just going to not talk about that right now. So we create a new instance of our delegate command, and what happens is when it's called, we're going to call the navigate. Okay, well, it's of type string, so this is the navigate method that's going to be invoked when the command is executed. So let's go ahead and just remove that. So our composite command, we are registering this navigate command with the global composite navigate command. We're registering that command. So when this command is invoked, our navigate execute will be invoked. Now as you can see, we're not returning a can execute because I don't care about that right now. I'm not checking a can execute, so by default it's returning true. So when this method is executed, we're expecting a navigation path for our parameter. We're making sure it's not null. Once we have it, we're calling region manager that requests navigate, the region we're navigating to, and then the navigation path. Okay. Okay, so now let's go ahead and open up the code behind of our shell. And we're going to say shell view model, because we're using Unity to resolve this for us. Data context equals view model. So now if we run this, we can now have access to invoke. We have permission to invoke the commands on these items because it's returning true because we haven't implemented a can execute. I click on one of these. You see we have a system.object. We'll explain that in a minute. But right now I'm clicking. It doesn't look like anything's changing, but it is. So let me minimize this. Let's go to our shell view model. I'm going to hit a breakpoint right here. Now I'm going to click on a navigation item. We're going to look at our navigation path. We can see the fully qualified name, IJ Outlook modules mail.views.mailview, question mark folder, that's the key, equals sent. So we're navigating to the sent folder on that view. Okay, we're talking about parameters here. You can see that's very HTML-like. The question mark folder represents, hey, there is a parameter attached to this navigation path. Okay, and we'll see how to use that in the view itself. So let's go ahead and continue. So what I want you to see is where this happens. I want to cover exactly what is going on here. Okay, so let me just drag this out of the way. Let's open up our mail group. So we have a data tree that's data bound to the items that is in this view model. So remember, if we go to the mail group's code behind, whenever this mail group is created, this view model instance is created by Unity. We don't have to say equals new object. Unity is just going to give us one. And we're setting the data context to the view model for our data binding. Simple enough. Okay, so now we have an items property in here that's being populated by this generate menu. Okay, so the items property is being created. We're adding some items, some navigation items for the personal folders, which is the root, inbox, drafts, sent items, deleted items as children. And we're passing in parameters. We're creating a parameter for a navigation path, except for the root, which is personal folders. That's just going to the default view. Okay, and we're just applying a URI query to the navigation path. So now, because we have this attached command property, data binding to our navigate command, this composite command, now this is static. That means I don't have to have an instance of this created. I click on that. We have registered our delegate command with that static navigate command, that composite command. So whenever that composite command is executed anywhere in our application, this navigate method will execute. So that means all of our navigation logic is in one location. We can now extend our application with other modules, and all they have to do is call this command and pass where they want to go. They don't have to know the implementation of the navigation logic. It all exists here. Once we get the navigation path, we then call request navigate to the region manager, and then we have our region we're navigating to and the path. Very simple. So, why were we seeing system.object in this region when we were navigating? How come I didn't see my view? Because we created some views, right? We have a default view and a mail view. So what the heck is going on there? Well, when you're using navigation, you're navigating views, you have to actually register the view with the container as a type object. So we need to go into our mail module CS file, and we need to register our type. So one way to do this is to do a very long container. Remember, container is a property on our base module, in our module base. Container.register type of object. Then we got to go type of default view. Let's go ahead and we need our using here. And then we're using string name, type of default view, full name. Okay, so let's go ahead and run what we have. So we registered our default view with our container using this very long syntax, right? And I just remembered that didn't work because we are sharing this. So for now, just so we can get this to run, I'm going to say if Silverlight and I'll fix this in a minute to where you guys don't have to see this. We need it around our namespace as well. Because remember, we haven't done this for the WPF side, and WPF is sharing, this module is sharing this exact same code file. So because I want this to work right now, I got to do this little trick. Okay, so now when I click on personal folders, we're not going to see system.object because we didn't put anything in the default view. But the view is there. How do I prove it? Well, let's go up to our default view. And let's go ahead and put this in there. We'll just put default view. Now when we run this, we'll click on personal folders. Look, default view. So there's our view. When we come to inbox, remember this is navigating to the mail view, passing a parameter, but we don't have that registered properly. Okay, we have the default view registered with the container properly. This one, not so much. So let's go fix that. Go back to mail module. I'm going to go ahead, copy paste here. I'll make that mail view. Mail view. So now we're registering our mail view as type object with a container, and this has to be type object. You cannot register this as anything else when you're using Prism navigation. Very important. So now I run this. Default view. No more system.object. We're now in the mail view. How do I know this? Well, let's go add something in our mail view here. We added a text block binding to the title. So let's just do this. We'll fix that in a sec. I just want to show that since we registered our mail view properly with the navigation, it's going to work when we navigate to it. There we go. This is actually navigating. Every time I click here, we're navigating to the same view. Okay, so that proves that our navigation is in place and functional. But we're not done yet. I'm going to go ahead and revert this back. So what I want to do now is I just want to do a little cleanup. See, I undid this, put that back to title. We'll use that in a second. I'm going to get rid of I'm going to clean this up too. Okay, done with mail group, done with shell. We'll come back to the shell view model in a sec. What I want to concentrate on is this code, this container.register type of object. This is pretty verbose, so what I want to do is I want to simplify this. So I'm just going to create a little helper class. I'm going to create a extension methods basically off the container. So I'm going to add a new class. I'm going to call it Unity Container Extensions. Then I'm simply going to paste in the code that will allow us to make that more generic. Okay, so I can do this a couple ways. I can do register type for navigation of T, or register type of navigation type of. So with this in mind, I can now replace these register type, can't forget this, using IGOutlook.infrastructure.prism, because that's where our extension method exists. And I forgot to make that static. Whoops, my bad. Now I'll register type default view. Much prettier than this. So go ahead, register type for navigation, mail view. Let's go ahead and run this to make sure we didn't break anything. So the app still works as it's expected to. Great. Now, there's one more thing that bothers me. If you notice when we refresh this, what I want to happen is whenever this loads, I want to have a view show by default. I don't want the user to have to click something. I would just want something there. So to fix that, we're going to implement an interface and some code. Let's go to our shell. And what I want to do is I'm going to click on the XAMPP Outlook bar, and I'm going to add an event handler for the selected group changed event. Navigate to the event handler. So what I want to happen is whenever a selected group changes, which is going to happen the first time we inject a group or when we click on groups. So when we start adding more modules and we start clicking on those groups, we also want those groups' default views to show. So what we want to do is we're going to add another interface. And this is going to go in our infrastructure. Let's go ahead and add. Let's start with the class. We're going to call this Outlook bar group. And what we're going to have in here is a string called default navigation path. Great. So now what I want to do in this shell is I'm going to say bar group equals e.new selected Outlook bar group as Outlook bar group, that interface we just created. We're going to say, hey, if this group isn't null, you remember that that global command we created, navigate command? That commands, navigate command, execute, take the group dot, interface, always forget to do that, group dot default navigation path as the parameter. So that means whenever a new group is selected or loaded, we're going to navigate. We're going to call this navigate command, which remember the logic for the navigate command exists in the shell view model. We're going to pass our default navigation path. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is we need to go back to our mail group and have it implement Outlook bar group. So we have our default navigation path. So this is the string we're going to provide for the default navigation. But I don't want just the first node all the time, right? I want the default one when it first loads, but if the user makes a selection, I want them to come back to that selection. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to paste in some information here, I'm going to paste in some code, and let's look at the code here. Our XAMPP data tree on our mail group has a name, underscore XAMPP data tree. This is what's displaying all our items. I'm getting the first node and setting it to item. So now I'm saying, hey, if this item's not null, go ahead and navigate, use its navigation path. Otherwise, if it's null, so this means we've made a selection already. This is handling the scenario of when I have already loaded the module, I clicked on a navigation item, I navigated it to another group, and I came back. This is going to grab the current selection. So that means if there's not a selection, this is probably the first time we're loading this, and I'm going to go ahead and return the default view. So now the expectation is whenever we run this application, the first view that should show should be the default view. So let's run the application. And there we go. So now we have our first default view being shown on application load. And if I had another group down here, say like contacts or calendar, the second I select that, its default view would show. Okay, but if I were to select, say, sent items, navigate away to calendar, come back to mail, sent items would be selected and in view. Okay, so that's the behavior. Now the next thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and start getting our view, our mail view, to participate in navigation, right? We want to know when we're being navigated to. I want to show the folder on that view so I know what folder I'm in, right? So I'm going to navigate, use parameters. So I want to start hooking into this information. So in all my applications, I always have a view base. I never just derive from user control, right? My views are never user control. So I'm going to come down to my infrastructure. I'm going to add another class. I'm going to call this view base. Now this is actually going to be a user control. But I'm not done there. I'm going to go ahead and add another class. It's actually going to be an interface. You guessed it, iViewBase. And this interface has a iViewModel property. So this view is going to implement iViewBase. Now I know what you're thinking here. You're saying, wait, Brian, what's going on here? What are you doing? I don't understand it. Well, this is my MVVM framework. One of the core concepts of MVVM is just setting the data context of your view to an instance of your view model. That's it. I don't ever use any MVVM frameworks like MVVM Lite or Caliburn Micro or anything like that, because it's as simple as doing this. Get, return, data context, data context equals value. There we go. There's my MVVM framework. So whenever I set this property, my data context will be properly set to the instance of my view model. Just clean up a little bit. Now, I'm also going to need my region manager and we'll go ahead and start talking about the event aggregator. So let's go ahead and add our base constructor. I'm going to just throw in a whole bunch of base classes here, or constructor overrides. Okay, so don't pay any attention to this. This is just code, flexible code. You might not use any of this. I'm just throwing it in, so you might use it, you might use it, might not use it. Delete what you don't use. I'm just putting it in here so everyone can have their options. So basically, depending on what you're using, you can just use the region manager, the view model region manager, view model event aggregator, or all three of them. It doesn't matter. So now, we are participating in navigation. We want our view to participate in navigation. And right now, what we want to happen is we want to, let's say when we navigate to this view, we're going to update the title, right? So in order to do that, in order for our views or view models to participate in navigation in Prism, we need to implement the iNavigation aware interface. So I'm going to go ahead and implement that down here. We're going to make this virtual. We're going to make all these virtual because we want to be able to override these implementations in our derived classes. So return true on is navigation target, saying, hey, are you navigating here? Can you be navigated to? On navigated from, on navigated to. So what I want to happen is when we navigate to a view, I want the event aggregator to publish an event and uses the title as a payload. Okay, wait a minute, what's this? Okay, so first we need to create a new event. Okay, this will help explain things. So I'm gonna go ahead and add class. I'll call it events, doesn't matter, because what I'm sticking in here is a composite presentation event of type string. Okay, so this is Prism's composite presentation event, and string is the payload type. What am I sending along with this event? Okay, I'm calling it view activated. So now whenever this view is navigated to, we're going to get the view activated event and we're going to publish this event. This allows any class, any object, any component, whatever, in your application across modules to subscribe to this event and handle it and take that payload and do something with it. Okay, so we're going to publish this title. Cool. We'll come back to the view base when we start talking about the ribbon. So now let's go up to our view. So now we're in the mail view. We need to add a namespace that points to our view base. And that's simply our infrastructure class, right? So INF pointing to infrastructure. Now here I'm going to go INF view base. Just come down here, make sure I close it off. I'm going to go to my code behind, and we can technically get rid of this. Now, my mail view actually has a mail view model, or it should have a mail view model. So let's go ahead and create a mail view model. Now what I want to do first is I want an interface for this guy. Mail view model. And it's going to be an iView model. Okay, and this is going to implement iMail view model. Oh, here's our title. Okay, that's cool. Let's go ahead and create a constructor. And here I am going to use the event aggregator. So event aggregator. Now, let's add a private event aggregator here. We'll go ahead and assign it. Now what I want to happen is I want to publish the event whenever my view model is navigated to. So I know my view is going to be navigated to. That's great. But in case of the mail view, we are navigating to the same view every time we click a folder. Sent, deleted, right? We're navigating to the same view, but I need to grab the parameter so I know what it is. I'm going to set the title, and then I'm going to publish the event saying, what we navigated to. So once again, I think this is a perfect time for a base class. Infrastructure, add a new class. We'll call it Navigation Aware View Model Base. Yeah, a really complicated name, I know. So this is going to be a view model base. And I confirm navigation request. Okay, so this is a new interface. Once again, we're going to make all of these virtual. So what this does is if we go to the definition, you can see that iConfirmNavigate request also implements the contracts for iNavigation Aware, but adds one more for confirm navigation request. And this allows you to cancel a navigation if your logic doesn't allow navigation. And you do that with a continuation callback.invoke, and I'm just going to pass true by default. So once again, I'm going to return true by default. Okay, great. So now I'm going to go back, and this is going to derive from our new navigation aware view model base. Now what this allows me to do is override the on navigated to method. So what I'm going to do is, by using my navigation context parameters, get all my code over here. I'm going to remove this. Okay, because that actually is defined in our view model base. So we already have it defined. So what we're going to do is, when this view model is navigated to, we're going to take the navigation context, we're going to look in the parameters for our folder key. When we get that, we're going to set the title to IG Outlook dash and the key. Okay, so it'll be sent, deleted. Then once we have that, we're going to get the event, the view activated event. We're going to publish that passing the title. And that's going to be more used in WPF, but we'll see how that works later. So let's go ahead and run the app. Now, when I navigate to this mail view, nothing happens. Why is that? Why did that occur? Well, that's because we didn't register our types. So first off, let's go to our mail module. And let's go container dot register type I mail. Well, I didn't mean to spell it that way, but I did. I mail view model. It's now mail view model. Come over here. I misspelled that completely, so I'm going to fix that while I see it. And fix it here. So what I'm doing is, I'm saying, whenever I ask for an iMail view model, give me an instance of the mail view model. Okay? And once again, you can see the spelling mistake I made. It's no big deal. We could fix that. Doesn't matter what you call it. Actually, just whatever. Okay? So now let's go to our code behind. And right now we don't have a data context being set. We need to bring in the iRegion manager. And finally the iEvent aggregator. But we're not done yet. I've got to pass these to our base class implementation. So view model, region manager, event aggregator. All right, so now that we've been to our mail module, we registered our iMail view model with a mail view model implementation, and we have changed our constructor for our view to pass the view model, region manager, and event aggregator down to the base. When I run this application, you can now see that when we navigate to our views, we are grabbing the folder from the parameter and updating the title through data binding. Like, whoa, that's confusing. What's going on here? Okay. So here's the mail view. We're binding to the title. Here's our view model. On navigated to. Let's put a breakpoint here, breakpoint here. Run the app. When I navigate to the drafts folder, we're going to navigate to the mail view. Now, when we get here, we have a navigation context. that navigation context has parameters in it, and it's drafts. Okay, so using the key, we grab the value out and we assign the title. Then we use the event aggregator to publish the title, publish the event. So when this title gets set, that's when the view is updated. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, so that about wraps it up for the navigation and the MVVM structure. I mean, we did a lot of coding here. We put in a lot of infrastructure. And the next video, we'll start getting the tabs, the ribbon tabs injected, and sync those up with the view that's being injected. So thanks for joining me. Hopefully this wasn't too long of a module for you, but hope to see you next time.